Good morning, everyone. This is Barclay Hagan. I am the Director of Client Care for OnPoint, and welcome to our webinar this morning, Improved Efficiency with Importing Jobs in Spectrum. And we've got Mike Pazinski that will be presenting for us today. And if you have any questions, we'll open it up at the end to address those. But if you just want to type those in the control panel, if you're in the GoToWebinar control panel, then we'll be able to address those at the end. And Mike, I will hand it over to you.
Thanks, Barclay. Yeah, so the reason we're doing this in our series of instructional webinars is, we talk to a lot of folks who are still taking, it seems like it's taking a lot of time to set up jobs, or there are issues with setting them up right and then getting all the benefits out of it. So at a time when, margins have to be kept as close to budget as they can, and then getting ready for being busy again if the economy and the industry repeats what it did after the last downturn. Just efficient job setups, making that so that it doesn't hold up your ability to scale is just so important. So what we're going to show today is the ability to import a job, and I want to make a distinction. You can now import a job, but recently Viewpoint also developed new templates, the Excel templates, so that if in lieu of import of a CSV, you can use Excel templates to accomplish the same thing if that's a better tool for you. So there are two options here. Now today, all we're going to talk about is the import. So the process of setting up a job, I'm going to click on jobs. I've got it on my favorites here, but that's the equivalent of going out to the site map and then going to job cost and then maintenance jobs. But speed and efficiency, I'll click on jobs. Now I could either hit Alt-N or click the new button up here. And then I'm going to click on, in this case, I'm going to use a quick setup job. And I've got a template, C for construction job. All right. And if you're not familiar with the templates, please let us know. But in this case, I've got a template set up that auto-numbered the job for me. And I'll just type in new project. And then on my cost center, I'll just make it 200 in this case, which is construction and the sample data. Now, to edit the key personnel, the button on the right, I'm going to hit Alt-K so I get into that screen. And I'm going to zip on down or hit Enter to the project manager. And I'm showing it this way to you. I'm showing you this just for an idea of, staying on the keyboard, getting as efficient as you can. All right. My son says that old people stay on the keyboard and young people click, but we just won't go there. And so the customer, ANADAR, INNADAR. Well, in that case, I'm going to hit F4. I didn't know the customer code. I'll hit F4. It brings up list. I hit Enter for go. And I'll hit my customer there. All right. And then I'm going to hit Enter again. And let's just say, and this is reality. Let's just say I think it's about a $3.3 million contract. Okay. Now, if we're looking at a job analysis before we do anything else, my contract will be 3.3. All right. And we'll just kind of burn that into memory. Now, at this point, I'm going to hit F3 to exit that quick add setup. All right. Now, I get into my properties on the info bar. I'm going to zip on down to import estimate. Okay, and I'm importing the base contract versus a change, and I'm going to click on the import button. Okay, a couple of things to burn into memory. If I'm importing a unit-based contract, depending on what my file looks like, I may want to force a big group or a grouping of my contract items. Now, in this case, I'm not, but that's what that that's what that checkbox is all about. And if there were phases or billing details in there, I'm saying clear them, and it's verifying it's fixed price. I'm going to hit continue and then browse out to my file. So I've got a file set up, and I'll talk about this in a little more detail in a bit. Okay, I'm going to hit upload. Now, when it stalls a bit like that, go back to your other tabs and save out of them. There would be record locking going on. Excuse me. All right, so now it's finished, and I hit OK. So we've set up the job shell, and we've imported the phases with the budget. We've imported the schedule of values, and then we have the opportunity to create subcontracts from what's been imported. And I'll talk about each of those. So we are in the job setup menu still, all right? And we're first coming to the phase grid. This is a fully editable screen here. I can make new phases, I can edit existing ones, and I can also delete what's in there. So this is totally editable. We always recommend the first thing you do is check out your total, and does that tie to your takeoff? Okay. But then the pieces that are important, obviously you have your phase and your cost type, but if you're tracking production quantities and you have unit of measure in those quantities, those can be brought in. That's a lot of detail. And if you can bring those in on your file, it just makes it easier on everybody. All right. We've got the budget amount or the estimate amount. If we had hours and labor and equipment, they would be here. Right now, our projection of quantities equals our estimate of quantities if we were at quantity tracking. But where I did want to go is to the billing item. If we're linking phases to our billing items, again, that's a lot of detail. If you can have that prepared in your file, so it just comes in here automatically, chances are that job will be set up properly without having a lot of manual correction or manual intervention. As we scroll across, then, if you've got workers' comp codes that are specific to the phases that are being done or the tasks, those can be in that file as well. That's big to your company. So this is our estimate. It's 2.9. If I pop over now to my billing detail, this is my schedule of values. I'll hit enter. And this is literally my schedule of values listing in this job. Yours will obviously be different. This is a GC job. So I'm going down my billing items or my schedule of value items, checking their taxability, and then the contract amounts. Now, if there were subcontracts, I can click on the subcontracts button, and in settings, I've told it anything with a cost type S is a qualified or a potential subcontract. When I hit enter, it's asking me for the default subcontract number, prefix at least. So I'm going to put a dash behind the job and hit enter. And what that does for me then is if I did select a vendor for site work, let's just say I selected whomever I did, okay. The subcontract number then pre-fills with that value I had up here, and I can put in a 01, a 02, and such to get that subcontract created for me. So we've done three things. We brought in the phases, we brought in the schedule of values, and we brought in the potential for subcontracts, and I've created one. From here, you go back to job setup, all right? It's a good idea, especially when you're first using this, to print a listing of what you've got in here and review that. I don't know about you all, but when I look at a screen like this, eventually it's all looking the same. So you can print listings to review, and then eventually you're going to update. So I'm going to update that import. And again, it's the base contract versus a change. I hit OK. Now this is a very important screen, all right? It's asking me, do I want to bring in any subcontracts that I had indicated? Do I want to bring in my accounts receivable contract? In other words, the schedule of values and the billing detail. Do I want to bring in the phases? Well, of course I do. And in this case, I'm also going to tell it, in this case, I'm comfortable that this is the final estimate. My numbers won't change. And I do indeed want to create my projection as well based on my estimate. In a case where estimates are coming in and the numbers might change, it's a good idea to not bring in the projection at the same time because it's going to change. Wait until that estimate is finalized and then do a first projection. And then this button here is very important too. Do you want to include phases where you don't have an estimate on them? Some companies don't want to do that. Other companies do, and this is giving you the choice. If they're in the file, do you want to bring them in regardless? So I'll hit OK. And he's updated. And let's go check out that job now. Because I had myself as a primary contact, he should be on my list. That worked well. I guess I forgot to do that. So anyway, we'll pop out and take a look at this job. I'm so used to not even looking at the job IDs. 210209, here he is. I didn't put myself in there, obviously, as a contact. But what I wanted to show you then is that the revised contract is now that 3276 that was the total of my billing items. That the gross profit is the difference between my projected contract and my projected cost. All right, so it's a 300 gross profit with a 9.2 margin. So that's looking just fine. If I pop over now to costs and I look at my subcontracts, I see the one subcontract that I brought in. So this can be very handy. So tips and tricks. If I haven't put you to sleep yet, if you have a lot of subcontracts, in lieu of going back to new and creating them, you can go back into your job and go back into your import file. Costs. Where are you? Cost history job. Import estimate. You can pop back into your contract, and from here you can actually go back to subcontracts, and as you're subletting these things, you can come to this screen and indicate the vendors and then go back through that update process until it just updates subcontracts. A lot of folks do this who sublet a lot of their work. It's a lot faster and a lot more efficient. Lets you focus more than on contract control and keeping up with subs than this setting this stuff up. Another thing, tips and tricks here is, a lot of contractors, more and more that we're running into, you're tracking your budget and your costs on a phase or a group of phases as they relate to a billing item. In other words, I've got so much in my cost side, am I billing enough to make money and to keep positive cash flow? So another positive thing that this approach does for you is, if the links are right on your phases, then it's so much easier to do that in an import file. You can then take an inquiry and a report that shows you the relationship between your phases and your billing items. So to do that, to show you that, I'll come back over to my new job. And I'm just going to tell it, I want to go look now at the contract. That's where this nice inquiry is. And within the contract now, I'm in the contract in the info bar. I'll go to financials, and then I'll go to billing items. And I'll just scroll down to something that's kind of meaningful. So this is telling me now that on my billing item 30 for roof system materials, my billing item is 175, and my projected cost, my contract amount is 175. My projected cost in this case is 250. This is not a good example. So I have a projected gain or loss. Just so what's wrong with my contract there? And maybe I'm making that up on the next line. I don't know. But in this case, my equipment, my contract is 110. I don't have any costs. I suspect these two were rolled up. That's the theory there. So I've got a net profit of 25 and 10 is 35, 25 and change. But then as you're incurring cost on these phases or the group of phases that are linked to these guys, your job to date cost will roll up, and you'll see that happening. And then you can look at your job to date revenue to make sure you're billing enough phase by phase by phase, or contract billing item by billing item by billing item. This is a very popular inquiry, and there's also a report that does this to show you not only by job if you're staying positive with cash flow, but to the individual billing items and the phases of work that they're representing. And again, all this is much easier to deal with that import because you can set it all up on that side. So one final thing, I'll show you the file I used. The import file layout is specific to your estimating system and what's being generated. And so many people still use Excel, so that's not out of the question. This is the standard one. There are rows at the top that have a semicolon in front of them, and those are remarked out when you generate the CSV. But what we've got here then is a title bar. We've got a phase, a description, a cost type, units, UOM, amount, and so on. And this is for the phases, and they start with a P. The record identifier in these guys is a P. So this is the file I imported, the phase part. If I scroll down, I've also got R lines. If the record identifier is an R, it's a revenue line or schedule of values. And I've got the billing item number and the description and so on here. Okay. Incidentally, having what I was talking about before on linking, we just hear more and more about this as people are wanting to get efficient and really tighten up their job costing and billing. On the phase lines now, I'm linking them here to the billing items. It's so much easier to do that here and make sure it's complete than inside of the software where you're bouncing around. Well, I hope this has been helpful. Barclay, I'll hand it off to you here.
Okay. So with that, just thank you all for coming, and we would appreciate any feedback. If you guys have suggestions on sessions you'd like to see, please let me know. I can be reached at clientcare@onpoint-software.com. Also, be sure to go to our website for the Spectrum procedure guides if you don't already have a copy, and then to be aware of any of the things that we have going on regularly. You can follow us on social media. We have Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn pages that we post to regularly. So with that, everybody have a good afternoon, and we will talk to you soon.